Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo mu maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop, and smart TVs. As we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, Uganda. Good evening, East Africa and the entire world at large. My name is Abdalla Tiff. I welcome you to the Hotline Show. Every Monday, we are always here discussing issues that concern every citizen, especially when it comes to the advancement of democracy, advancement of multi-party dispensation at all levels. Well, as like our commitment, every Monday, we are always here discussing these issues. We all know that democracy is not just a mere word, just a statement, but it entails a number of things. Before a country boasts of democracy, there must be so many things that have to be put in place. This starts right from the civic space, whereby citizens must have that free environment, the free space to engage, to interact, and have discussions on many issues. In many countries, especially in Africa, we have seen elections taking place. And these elections, one would think it's a clear representation and a clear sign that there is democracy in that particular country. However, I think democracy goes beyond that. Much as there are elections, sometimes it's not a clear representation that that particular country is on the right track of democracy. Well, there is one thing that has that we believe has crippled down the process to realizing the true meaning of democracy in Africa. And that is the issue of political monetization. Especially when we go to campaigns, you see there is a lot of monies that is being involved in the electoral process. And one would really question, does this money really, does it create the free will? Does it give the free mind for a citizen to make a choice, to decide the leaders to take them in the next 4 or 5 years, depending on the country? Well, I am privileged today. I have colleagues, comrades in the studios who have joined us, and they will be sharing their views, their insights with us. I want to start with Ndugu Kafuuma Felix. He is the programs manager for Alliance Save for Finance Monitoring. And then I also have Bwana Asega Habib Jogo, man from Arua. He's also going to share with us. He has participated in the previous election. So he must be having that fresh experience of how it was and maybe how much that he incurred to be part of the elections that he eventually lost. And then we also have Comrade Benjamin Mwaji Gakuru from Kenya. Is the National Organizing Secretary for the New Democrats. New Democrats, it's a political party in Kenya that has been in existence for 16 years. He's also going to share with us their experience in Kenya. I think I need to give my guest an opportunity to say hi to our viewers. I want to start with Mr. Kafuuma Felix.
Thank you so much for giving me this space to discuss a very interesting and important topic, especially in the current times, and it's good to be part of this discussion. And hello to all our viewers and listeners. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. Bwana Asega, you could also do the same.
Thank you very much, Bwana Abdalla Tiff. And I would like also to thank the Online Digital Talk for inviting me in this show for the first time. And we hope that the deliberation will be fruitful, and we shall share our experiences, as you did mention. I am Asega Habib Jogo, as you said, former regional coordinator for People Power and the coordinator for Justice Forum, a member of Justice Forum JEEMA, and I am also the member of PFT, JCC, Joint Consultative Council, and I represent Justice Forum in the high level of the PFT. So I'm grateful to be in the show.
Thank you, Mr. Asega. You have so many titles, former regional coordinator, current coordinator. Well, I also need to cross back to Mr. Benjamin Gakuru from Kenya. Please also say hi to our viewers.
Opportunity. My name is Benjamin Gakuru, National Organizing Secretary for the New Democrats. As you have said, Mr. Drive, we are 16 years old, and 15 years election for that various by-election in Kenya. So it's very important to host, for you to host me when we are having this serious discussion. As you know, the next year we are going to have a general election. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gakuru, thanks for creating time to be part of the show. Well, I want to start with Mr. Kafuuma Felix. Yes. You work for an organization that has taken a central role to ensure that you do monitor the campaign money, the campaign financing, whereby in most cases we see that there is extreme figures that have been incurred in these elections. And I remember after the election, there is a report that you shared with the public. Could you briefly take us through what were some of your findings in the 2021 elections?
Thank you so much.
Just give a
brief overview.
Yes, it's a detailed book.
Yes, and we have not yet launched it, but the report is done, and it covers a number of areas in terms of, I think the most important thing what public is waiting for is how much did we spend on those campaigns in terms of the figures, but also what was the average expenditure per candidate across. And how did that impact the various youth participation, women participation, how did it probably fuel the election violence, all those other aspects. But I can't say this, that so far the report does indicate that the 2021 elections, I think the expenditures more than closely tripled compared to the 2016 year elections. Wow. We even in terms of average expenditure, given candidates spent, especially at parliamentary level and also at LC5 level, you could see that the figures doubled in some constituencies where competition was very stiff. MPs were spending in excess of $1 billion Uganda shillings to secure that seat, but the average expenditure was 500 million Uganda shillings, and I think my colleague here will attest to how much probably sunk into an election. Of course, there were outliers in terms of the when you look at, there were certain candidates who didn't spend so much because of the wave, but that figure is quite insignificant compared generally to how people spent in the previous elections, and it also partly speaks to the nature and the way the elections were organized within what we call the scientific elections that was mainly to rely on media. And because it was mainly relying on media, you would see that the expenditure patterns slightly changed. But overall, I must say this, that I think we witnessed one of the most expensive elections. And I think the public should also watch out, especially the behavior of the politicians shortly after having spent that much money, and also how basically government business is going to run and how private sector is going to organize itself around opportunities. It's more than just spending money in elections. It has far-reaching implications on political decisions, on political behavior, on aspects of accountability, on issues to do with our economy and the inflation. So I think it's high time as a country we really had kind of discussions around regulating money in politics.
Is that a discussion that you think you can bring on table, and Ugandans, you know, they really buy the whole idea?
Yes, I think this discussion eventually it has to catch up with us, because if we can have honest conversations and certain steps taken, especially to address the speed at which we are monetizing our elections, I think it's good for everyone, including Omuntu Wawansi, because someone might be asking himself or herself, how does this affect me? You see, there has been this narrative of the demand and supply when it comes to transacting during elections. The voter, and because of justifiable reasons, don't believe, because over time politicians have portrayed themselves as liars. They make so many promises, and then they are elected into power, and when they get into power, you see them detached or distanced from the reality, from the issues affecting the people who voted them. So people have realized that, okay, I think political spaces, being a politician is employment, it is opportunity, it's a shortcut to getting rich. Unfortunately, Uganda, we have a very abnormal situation. You have highly paid politicians and poorly paid public servants. No wonder we are having funny strikes. So, and it's no secret that people know that politics is indeed lucrative because of the way
the incentives
that come with being a politician, especially, and I'll speak about the position of the MP. Even though when you talk to them, they'll tell you that in actual sense we are highly indebted because of the way they spend money, and the way they access those offices also indebts them. But the point I don't want to lose here is that you have public that has lost trust with its leaders. So it treats an election as a Galloway of get much as you can from a politician. And also politicians have realized that, okay, it's the only language the electorate understand. So we will give them the money. Then when they vote us into power, we will go and find a way of recoping back our money. So you have problems of political accountability. And you also have what we call political corruption, which is the biggest problem at the moment in this country.
Well, thank you so much, Bwana Felix. I think you've given us a clear picture of what transpired in the 2021 elections, where we saw people like Bwana Asega struggling, selling lands, selling all the assets that you have to just because you want to become a member of parliament. What is that do or die that makes you lose all and actually surrender your properties, your assets, just for the purpose of being a member of parliament? What is there?
Thank you very much, Bwana Abdalla Tiff. This, first of all, politics and money, and then it leads to leadership. I first of all want to distance myself. I'm one person who went to this election with honesty but I found myself having votes that are not enough because of honesty. I want to assure the nation and the world at large that during my campaigns, I did not even sell off any property of mine. I remain with my head up. But nevertheless, the experience I went through, because I've been in this country, I've been participating in political processes of this country since we went to multi-party dispensation. Though I was young. No. As a voter, as a supporter, eventually I found myself as candidate.
Okay.
First of all, money and politics. Before this situation comes in under this regime, election was not monetized as it is today. Election in 1994, I was young. It was not monetized as it is today. 1994, when we elected, when people of Uganda elected members of the Constituent Assembly. I was not a voter, but I was a young person running behind a candidate, and I saw what it meant. I was very sober. 1996, it was also the same. But what causes all this is when Uganda went into multi-party politics, it created competition. And the competition, where there is a competition, someone can do anything. Let me take a case of a man and two boys fighting for a girl, a beautiful girl. One will put every source that he has in order to see that that girl takes his side. So it is the same thing that is happening in Uganda as of today. That today, the NRM regime has lost credibility, has lost trust by the people. So the only thing they're having is the money. They have the money, they have said all the lies, right? And the same lies they've been telling people of Uganda every year comes, every 5 years coming, they only twist the language. And people of Uganda understand that. So what they have resorted to is now to give money, to buy what? To buy voters. And this has created a very dangerous situation that a member of parliament, for example, a member of parliament or any other leader wanting to do or die, buying votes with the expectation that in parliament, as he said, they are going to earn lots of money. And someone sits in his house and make a calculation properly that each voter, I have 50,000 voters in this constituency, I will give this person this much, and then I have this total, I'll have balance here, and when I go to parliament, after 2 months or 3, I would have risen all the money that I have spent. Then the other one will be for making my profit. Secondly, I would drive Porsche cars, you know. I will live in a very high standard of living, you know. Something that I've seen it is beyond. Well, a member of parliament deserves to be in high level, at a honorable level. But again, Uganda has gone beyond that. It has gone beyond that. Okay. When you give money to a voter will vote this leader. The leader will go with that mindset of buying or being bought. It has given rise to very many bad policies and bad laws that has gone through in this country. It's a result that we find that a member of parliament cannot see, is not sober to see that a term limit is dangerous to the future of this country. Removing of term limit, removing of age limit is very dangerous to the future of this country. But because he bought a vote and he knows he will be bought by the state or by the head of state in order to make his laws go through, they give in. So it has created a very bad precedent in governance of this country. So that's why we have problem of governance. A president issues statement. A minister issues his different contrary to that. You have seen very many during this COVID uncoordinated statement. Why? Because of that kind of level of understanding. And then we are asking why corruption today. That is the source of corruption. you came in through bribery and you are providing leadership in using bribery. You must be bribed first and then you do what? You do something. So this has caused a lot of problem, and it has turned the population to be beggars. It has turned population to be beggars. Right now, when you go to public as politician now, when I go to meet people or something like that, now when it is not political season, they will expect something from you. They will expect something from me, though they know I did not go through. Why? Because they have that mentality that this man is a politician, and though he must be earning. And they will say, you man, you are passing, you are not greeting us, you will see us, you give us something small. I want to give you a scenario. One time I had only 3,000 in my pocket, and I wanted to have lunch. And somebody came and said, please, I found somebody eating. Said, now, you see, the honorable, you have arrived now. You have to pay this food. And so it was in public, and I had to give the 3,000, and I stayed hungry. So what has it taken us? What lesson have I learned from that? Is that people have turned to be totally beggars. The state has made, first of all, they have made the population damn poor, expecting that they will get money during election. Now when it is towards the time of election, people start now whispering, we are now going to eat money. We are now going to eat money. They don't look at the capability of a leader that will give back them service. That's why right now when you go back, there is no service delivery. There are many things that have been brought, but on the ground they are not reflecting. Why? Because they don't have the leaders elected went to make money.
Well, thank you so much, Bwana Asega. You know, when you mentioned about the 3,000 shillings in your pocket, and then a voter is like, honorable, now you're here, please, you have to clear the bill. I saw Bwana Gakuru smiling.
What expectations?
He could be going through the same in Kenya. Well, Mr. Gakuru, hope you're there. We need to get your experience from that side. We know Kenya is one of the countries that actually, much as we are talking about the cost of elections here being tripled, in Kenya, it's totally different case. If you're not so much certain of your wallet, just keep away from the politics of Kenya. Bwana Gakuru, could you please share with us your experience in Kenya? How is it that side? How do you do it?
No, I think my brother, I telling them what is happening in Uganda, what is happening in Kenya is the same. In fact, what my brother has said, those are the same procedure.
But Gakuru, your line is not so clear. I don't know what could be the problem.
It's on your side. Echo. Yeah, it's on your side. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, we got the same procedure because sometimes, for me, being a politician, I vied in 2017, and then people know that I'm Mheshimiwa. I didn't go through, but because I have some followers who follow me, those who elected me or voted during that time, they know that I'm their Mheshimiwa. So sometimes when you go to the hotel and you find them, they are in, so they'll tell you, hey, Mheshimiwa, you have come now, you have to buy tea for us. And you have to do that. If you do not do that, when it's coming to the next general election, then you'll face the same problem. They'll tell you, what kind of the Mheshimiwa, even he cannot able afford to buy a tea. So those are the challenges. The other thing is that my friend here said that democracy, we need to understand that most of our politicians, they are making our people beggars through not to give them the services they require, because when they come to do their campaign, they will start promising them they will do 1, 2, 3. We'll build the ECD, we'll build the health center, we'll give you power free, so many things. But all these are petty things to common mwananchi. You find that our election, like now 2017, it was very expensive election, and our election start from the party primary, and these are party primary whereby there is a lot of corruption. When you say that, like now, we are going to have a party primary, you find that like 10 people, they are fighting for one position with the one political party, and they are saying, me, I must win, I must win. So these people, they are spending a lot of money for them to have that certificate, knowing that because they are following a certain candidate, like here in Kenya, they will say, oh, now I'm the number one or number two, which means that I'm going to be elected as a deputy, as a MP or as a MCA, because you belong to a certain political party. So they don't want to go to other small, they call them here small political party, but they end up, once they lose in the party primary, they join those small political parties, looking for certificate. Yet that our regulation is very clear, articulated, very clear. If you want to join a political party and you want to participate in general election, you must be a member 3 months prior to election. Sometimes you find that some of them, they are being roped out. Some of them, they end up to go independent, and they end up to lose the election. So you find these people, they are spending a lot of money running up and down to see where they can fit in any election, so that for them to be elected. At the moment they get that post or being elected, they end up to root. So the next government, they have enough money to bribe the people, to buy the voters. And also the other major issue here is that when you are being elected, our government, mostly they give you the tender. So once they give you the tender, they will be keeping silencing you, because we have given you the tender, you don't pay the VAT. Now, if you talk, now we are going for you. So those are the kind of corruption which we have here in Kenya, and those are the things which are making.
When you try to speak, your tender is withdrawn.
Your tender will be withdrawn, and then you are being told now the KRA, Kenya Revenue Authority, is coming for you. So you have to pay billions of shillings. You find that services to common mwananchi, we are not getting those services. My friend Asega, he has said that you find that kind of the good governors or bad governors, and lack of understanding each other, because sometimes you find that the government, the national government, is usually giving some direction. You find that we have 47 counties. Every governor, you find, is doing his own way. We have 15 revenue correction, which is go to the national, to the county government. Yet that the county government, they are not able actually to account the money they have been given by the national government. And then you find that even the national government, they also go back to the county government to request them to loan them money so that they can do a certain project. So when you go those in the county government, you find that there is no medicine, because the government went for the money. What we have here, sometimes the national government, they declare we have given the county government a certain amount, yet those are in digits. But when you go to the ground, there is no that money. When you go to the ground, there is that work. So you find that we have a lot of problems. And I think Uganda and Kenya, we are sharing the same problems. So
in Kenya, yes. Do you have organizations like here we have the ACFIM, Alliance for finance monitoring? Do you have such institutions, organizations that try to, to tame that extreme expenditure in the elections? Do you have such institutions?
No, we have IBC. We have IBC, which is Electoral Commission, and it's the body which is mandated to do all those work. But when the bill went to the parliament, our MPs, they shut the bill down, because they wanted for them to spend a lot of money. They said that they cannot spend that money. They want to spend the money the way they want. The IBC not giving them money, so that they are not supposed to account any money. And you see, like now, this on 9th this month, it was the last finance campaign or mobilization for the people who are applying for 2022. So the room was closed. But you see, people are still doing fundraising, yet that the deadline is over. It was on 9th this December. Because now, when it's come for our constitution or acts within the parliament, people are serious about all these acts, about the constitution. And you know, the MPs here in Kenya, they like to pass the bill which is favoring them, but not what is favoring the common mwananchi. When it's the increase of the salary of them, when it comes for the medical bill, insurance, they will rush to the parliament, all of them, within 5 minutes, the bill has passed. Come to the Wanjiku common mwananchi, now the unga is on higher side. They won't take any serious. You will see like almost 500, 320 MPs. You'll only find that 100 MPs in parliament. The rest, they are out there. They are eating. They cannot attend even to the parliament to discuss the serious motion and the serious issue which is affecting Wanjiku. Look at now, we have the COVID. The money lost for the COVID since it was started. And the president said that given the direction that within 15 days we'll be having the culprits who are storing the COVID money. So now we have a billionaires within the CBD who storing for the COVID, yet that no one who was arrested. So those are the challenges we are facing. I think Uganda and Kenya, we are facing the same because you find that our people, our MPs, they are driving the big machine. Passed the bill for health for having 2 wives. So they want those they have married 2 wives. They passed the bill. They must be accommodated in that insurance. You see.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Gakuru. I think we'll be getting back to you. Thank you for shedding the picture of how it is in Kenya. I think East Africa, we almost have similar problems. Now, I want to go back to Felix.
Yes.
You see, the public seem not to understand the kind of work you do. Yes, you do finance monitoring, and now you do the reports. You get the reports. So after having the reports, after traversing the whole country, you have the reports. What did you do about the reports? What do you do with them? What next? And I don't know for how long you've been in this business, but if you have been able to issue out some reports, you know, after an election that has just been concluded, have those reports made any difference, especially on the next elections that happen, that's coming?
Very interesting question. For starters, we've been doing this since 2015. So we've so far observed 2016 elections, observed 2021 elections. Okay. So that's the cycle of about 10 years. But before I answer that question, I need to
respond.
Pick up something my colleague from Kenya has just said. You know, Africa, we have the same script. It's as if we have the same father. And the difference between Kenya and Uganda is in the magnitude. And the commercialized politics in Kenya is at another level. But I think that also explains their nature of also the economy. But you see, in Kenya, the private sector is heavily involved because there are very many competing interests. Whereas it is involved in Uganda, but in Kenya it's at a different level. Now, why Kenya is a very interesting case is that Kenya drafted a law, a campaign finance law, a very good, prescriptive, elaborative law.
Yes.
But these gentlemen,
the members of parliament,
this is very interesting.
Those who marry 2.
This is very interesting. They picked the law, they said, no, this we can't. and they threw it out after having invested time in legislating on that law. They threw out that law. Our friends in Tanzania also have quite a progressive law which has never been tried. When it is tried on opposition. So I'm just trying to show you the problem Africa has in terms of appreciating democracy. And I think democracy, we need to go back and define what democracy works for us. Because in context, you see even most countries that began well eventually start to take a turn of autocracy. The longer they stay in power, the strong man syndrome, the political parties that become very strong and then they become hand and glove, like you can't separate political parties from government. So the state institutions and the political parties are fused into one. Yeah. And people, that doesn't just happen overnight. It happens, it's a gradual process, but in there's the equation of money. Facilitating that kind of symbiotic relationship and eventually a hand-in-glove kind of situation whereby you have political parties fused with state institutions. Now, the difference between Uganda and Kenya is that what happened in Kenya paved the way for some progressive reforms democratically. In fact, Kenya is more progressive democratically compared, and Uganda is more regressive. Unfortunately, we are taking very many steps backward. So at least in Kenya, even when there is a lot of money used to influence electoral outcomes, you've seen that there are certain laws they have preserved, they have promulgated, they have issues of terms. We all now know that Uhuru, however much, can't come back. So they have made some gradual steps. But to answer your question, what happens when we go out of the way to monitor and observe campaign spending in elections? There are many things that happen. One is that first of all, we quantify how much has been spent and what that means to the economy, what that means to our electoral outcomes, what that means to our democracy, what that means to you, a common person, eventually. We start to help you connect dots that, okay, when you see your MP supporting a bad law, remember how you behaved during elections. When you see yourself not being able to have a meaningful service delivery, even a conversation with your leader. Do you know why every time a voter gets an opportunity to meet a leader, they will never say, we don't have this. We don't have as a community. This as a community. Yes. It has always, the problems that are community in nature have been personalized. Pay my school fees, my wife is sick, not eaten lunch. I've not eaten. My colleagues are here paying. They're here paying lunch for. So we help them appreciate, to connect their voter decisions to eventually how their state of life and their livelihood, and the thing they talked about of being impoverished over time, deliberately, because you can't have leaders who come through such a flawed process and you expect to have money in your pocket.
As a voter or as a leader? As a
voter, the leader will get the money. Okay. Because he invested. This is economics.
It's a business now.
Yeah, that's what we call a political economy. It's a business. I invest my money, you give me your vote, I must recoup my money. So because you've given me your vote, I already paid you. So don't expect anything. Yes, go slow on me. But also, that has created a situation whereby you have an absent, we call it an absent government when it comes to service delivery, but very present.
During the election?
No, when it comes to containing dissenting voices. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I beg your pardon on that.
It's a very absent government when it comes to service delivery. But if you want to know that there is government, go at State Square with a placard, try to demonstrate, and probably even when you are constitutionally, you're doing so.
Even if you are alone.
Even if you are alone, that's when you remember that there is a government. But if you want to know there is no government, go to the public services. You will ask where is government. So we have a very interesting structure called government that it is present and absent at the same time. It chooses where to be present and chooses where to be absent. It has chosen to be absent when it comes to public services. But that has played into the trap of commercial politics, because that now presents an opportunity for politicians to present themselves like the solution. They are now the ones who play the government role of providing services. That's why you see ambulances donated by, you see health facilities being constructed, bridges. That's not their work, but government is comfortable with it. So we help this wananchi conscientize those issues and appreciate, and I can tell you that they do. In fact, they know. Even those who accept bribes, who accept to be bribed, they know that what they are doing is wrong.
It's not right.
Yes. But they are in a situation, if I don't take it,
someone else will take it.
Someone else will take it. And again, my situation won't change. I think it's a catch-22 for them. But we need to have more of them eventually wake up and realize. And I can tell you for sure that if you observed 2021 elections, especially if you paid attention to the voting patterns, in districts where there is more public awareness, more consciousness, two things happened. Mm-hmm. One, it was not a guarantee that those who spent
they
went through. Two, those who spent and went through, you realize that in some districts, the bargaining chip was higher. That's why in some districts, people are spending $1 billion, in others, they're spending. In the western districts, it's very expensive to contest, right from the primaries. But when you go in the eastern, it's slightly cheaper. Mm. Those voting patterns are not by mistake. They show you how, first of all, the vulnerability of the voters, because it's not the same across. Yeah. But also, for example, when you come in the central, where the awareness and civic consciousness is more deepened, yeah, you will see that it was not an automatic qualification for you to use money and be elected. So on that we've achieved. But another thing that we've also been able to engage on has been on policy and legal reforms that we've pushed for. Unfortunately, what happened to Kenya also happened to us in Uganda, because we were able to convince legislators, this previous parliament, the 10th parliament, that you must legislate on campaign financing, especially campaign financing, that you must legislate and pay attention to. When we talk about legislation, let's put a ceiling on how much you spend. Let's put a clause on disclosure of your sources of income. Let's put in place structures that provide for accountability. Do you know what happened? Our opposition MPs were very quick to say that the proposals you are making are good, but they are going to be used against us. When NRM, we took the same proposal to NRM was very quick to say, okay, we like that, but we are more interested in the disclosure part. Mm. Opposition is saying, but when we give you when we disclose our sources, you're going to witch hunt people who finance us. Mm. And they had genuine reasons, but we lost the bigger picture of the debate, that we must curtail the negative influence of money in our politics because of the very many things. And legislators were appreciating that it's no longer sustainable for us to campaign. In fact, they were saying, yes, you are speaking a good thing. It's a good language. It's a good song. But who is going to bear the cut? That was the question. They all knew who is the biggest spender in Uganda here when it comes to politics. It's the party in power, because it has access to resources. So, and that's why the dilemma was. So the good law, with all the debates we had and about it, they were saying, okay, let's go slow on this law. We were able to convince the Attorney General and the Electoral Commission. That's why they came up with, remember the electoral amendments? Mm-hmm. That had clauses that were speaking to campaign financing, especially the clause on disclosure, because they picked just elements of it. And again, went to Parliament, because you have selfish legislators. Most of these legislators, when you remove money from the equation, they can't go to Parliament. I can tell you, and I can repeat that, most of these legislators, when you remove money from the equation, they can't go to parliament. That's why many people have stayed away from politics, the likes of you, the likes of me, who are sober and sane, because it is a very toxic environment. Kudos to this gentleman. I don't know how you're going to play in those murky waters. But again, the reforms were defeated. The point I'm making is that one, there are two ways to address money in politics. One is an issue to do with attitude change, perceptions, and to change behavior, the behavior of voters, the behavior of politicians. But that's a long term. The second one is legislating on political financing. And because countries that have done something about it, especially in Europe and in US, what they have done is to legislate on campaign financing. And for us, that's the song. So we are back again engaging this parliament. That is important. We have a law that legislates campaign financing. The advantage is, as I conclude, that whether they like it or not, it will catch up with them. Time is going to come when they cannot contest, because the demands, the commercial demands from the voters will be too much for them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bwana Felix. Well, I want to cross to Bwana Asega very briefly before we go back again to Kenya. When you shared with us, you basically talked about what you go through, you as a candidate, at a personal level, and you know that personal interaction with the voters, even when you lost an election. Now, could you briefly take us back during that campaign time? Yes? How was the money kind of influence in the whole election? Should we say that the one who spent much is the one in parliament, or it was the other way around?
Thank you very much. Generally,
and before you actually come in, should we say that you failed an election because you did not have money, or it was something else?
Oh, well, that's a very good question. And I'm happy that I went through such interviews immediately after election. Very many organizations approached our office, and we gave our experiences in as far as general election went through and in our camp. First of all, he did say a very important thing about the source of money. That's the most important thing. First of all, where do the political parties get money? We are having close to 30 or so political parties in the country. But
we have 26.
26. The political parties that participated in the last election were, I think, 4 or 5, something like that. We had DP, Democratic Party, we had NRM, we had they participated, right?
There were more than that, but maybe at the level of presidential. But even a lower local government, I think there were about 11.
Yes.
There were about 11 political parties. Thank you for that guidance. But you ask yourself, why didn't I, who was in the electoral process, did not even hear of others? The question is, the political parties that went into politics went the way I went to politics. First of all, political parties' income is regulated by the regime. How much you're supposed to have and how much you're supposed to spend. Remember, political parties that are in IPOD were supposed to receive 10 billion.
Actually,
15
billion.
Yes, they were supposed to share certain money equally. And then there is that percentage money. The one of percentage, they quickly, then the regime quickly dished it out. Because it depends. When you have one member of parliament, then you get like 30, then others like that. They quickly dish that. But that one that gives equal that they would actually
to participate in
election actually supposed to be to participate in election. That money was not given up to now.
It's true.
It was not given. What was the reason? Why is it that other political parties were denied and then NRM spent money? So your question as to why, maybe the one who spent money is the one who won election could be true. And actually I confirm it is true. I could have lost because of the same. The source of, we need to ascertain, even legislate that the regime's powers should be regulated into regulations of income of finances of political parties in the country, because they are alternative political parties. They are alternative. In case their candidate wins, they become legitimate political parties in government. But because everything is needed and managed by one lion person, you know, everything is regulated by an individual. So whether we are having good laws, by the way, we had very good laws. I started participating in 2011. One of the rules I was given during nomination by returning officer was that bribery is what? Giving money to voters is not allowed. But they don't follow. Electoral Commission itself turned deaf ear. The last election, I want to assure you that even Electoral Commission was under gunpoint. Someone goes with the order from above. Remember, Electoral Commission is appointed by the president and approved by, of course, what will do? The majority. You see, they cannot refuse. Is there anybody that a president appointed and parliament refused? Yes. The one parliament throws it out, he's brought back, bounced back and goes through. Well, recently we had some. So I was trying to tell you that money in politics, first of all, we need to understand the source of income of political parties, source of income of other individual politicians that are doing what are considered into election, that are contesting. Then I want also to critically look at Electoral Commission itself. Electoral Commission of Uganda, much as there was a kind of electoral reforms and electoral reforms that were proposed and appeared on the paper, but the major ones didn't appear. The major one didn't appear. All that one is influenced by the regime. For as long as we still have this kind of behavior, this kind of action by the regime on Electoral Commission, on organizing election, it's just like you organize a tournament, boxing, you're organizing boxing, and then you say, I'm going to fight with you, you are the one who is organizing, then you tie my hands, then you box me down, then you say you have won.
Well,
you get it?
Thank you
so
so
it
much,
is really...
I think we need to break off briefly, and then we'll be back shortly after that commercial break.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Nze omubejja luwedde Lilian mbaniriza maka gaffe amajja era nga wano tugenda okuba nga tukolera programu yaffe emanyiddwa nga The Voltage gaba masanyalaze gennyini era nga twogera ku bintu ebyenjawulo omwo nno mwe muli ebigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, ensonga z'eby'obufuzi n'obukulembeze bw'eggwanga Uganda, twogera ku nsonga ez'abavubuka, eddembe ly'obuntu awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana. Togisubwa buli lunaku olwokutaano eba ssaawa emu ey'akawungeezi paka ssaawa 3 ez'ekiro.
The Diaspora Link buli lwakuna ssaawa 11 paka ssaawa emu ey'olweggulo ye program gye tukuleetedde wano ku Alternative Digital Uganda. Tugenda batutunulira embeera z'Abannayuganda, baganda baffe, bannyinaffe zibawangaaliramu mu mawanga ag'ebunaayira. Bangi banyigirizibwa, bangi bakosebwa, bangi bayisiddwamu amaaso. Naye tugenda batutunulira engeri gye tusobola okulongosaamu embeera zaabwe. Tugenda kuba tulaba abo abakwatibwako abateekeddwa okuba nga balongoosa embeera zino eno. Tosubwa buli lwakuna n'omuweerezaawo Nixon Segawa.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdalla Tiff and I welcome you to the Hotline Show here at the Alternative Dig Talk as we discuss issues of national importance. Join us every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. and see who will be occupying these seats here with us. Keep it Dig Talk, real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Political monetization is the discussion today. We've got the experience from Kenya. We've got the experience from the colleagues who went down on the ground to find out what is happening exactly. They will be releasing their report very soon to the public, and we believe that report will be in position to guide the country when it comes to managing financially the next elections. That will be 2026. I'm sorry?
Conclude.
Well, 2026 elections. Well, before we went for the break, Bwana Asega was trying to share with us what happened in Arua, where he contested, and of course, looking at the legal, kind of framework. Much as we have some provisions in our laws that restrict that excessive, monetization of the entire campaign process, they have remained just mere clauses in our books. And it's really sad. Well, I want to cross back to the colleague in Kenya. Bwana Gakuru, hope you're there. We know that in Kenya, it's one of the countries where one must spend excessively to win an election. I really don't know whether the more you spend, the more you guarantee, the higher chances of becoming a member of parliament. You participated in the previous election in Kenya, I want to believe so. What happened exactly? Is it because your financial resources were kind of tied up that they could not enable you make it? Please tell us what happened and how do you intend to do it next year?
Let me tell you, my friend, Kenyan's politics is very funny because as long as the more you spend, you will win. Because most of voters here in Kenya, once they see that you didn't perform previously, even if you spend shillings, won't return you back. So that is not a guarantee that if you spend money, you'll go back. That is not a guarantee here in Kenya. We have many people who spend money, politicians working with a helicopter, many things. Sometimes here it's determined with you belong to a certain country, because here people like to associate themselves with any candidate. So for them, they can be elected. And that's what we call the, as I said before, most of the people or politicians, they don't like to join the small parties. I say they call them here small political parties, but the moment they lose in party primary, now those they call the political parties, they starting running group for a certificate. My case is very different because for me, I had money. Even still now, I have money. Only the problem is, and that's what I want my brother Felix, whether in Uganda, politicians, they buy vote from a certain region to a certain region. Like now, we heard whereby, for example, now maybe from Uganda to rural, you people from Uganda town to rural, they go there and they take them so that when it comes for the election or when it comes for the campaign, they can elect you. So that's what is normally happening here. You may have the money, but you are buying from the CBD, and also I'm buying from like airports. So I have the student from Nairobi University. So I'll mobilize the student. I'll took them to my or my constituency so that they can register as a voters. When it comes for the voting, now they'll come and vote me in a mass way. So that's also determined here, because if you don't have your people, if you depend with they belong to that place, they also belong to somewhere else. That you are doing a campaign whereby those are not they belong to somebody else.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Ugandans, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Dewa Kiki, the Deputy Defense Spokesperson and actually the Deputy Spokesperson for the Uganda People's Defense Forces. I was hosted on Alternative Dig Talk. I encourage all Ugandans that this is the way to go. Always watch, participate, give your views and ask questions on Alternative Dig Talk. Dig Talk, the way to go.
Jembadde itaita nsanza abasajja nga bagamba lwaki bala batukula Farida lwaki mukula abasajja
omusajja baba tebamukudde asanyuka busanyusi n'akuwa ssente kati bw'alaba nga tafunye kyayagala n'alowooza mbu wamukudde aba yazikuwadde oba tewamukudde.
Okay, Lydian, lwaki mwagala abasajja abakulu?
Nabo batwagala naye ffe tubagala lwakuba tubategekera future.
Okay, tutegekera future, what he say. For more insightful topics, yes, keep it the Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk. Remember, Snap Talk airs every Saturday, right from 6 to 7 with your girl Teddy Tenjo, but I never come alone. I come with the two beautiful girls. Meanwhile, we have a new home. I'm super excited. What do you think of our new home, Farida?
I love it.
I just love everything.
Yes, let's keep it the Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
You've got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Dig Talk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyannema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Dig Talk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Dig Talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Well, we apologize for that technical hiccup, but yes, now we're here. Our technical team has been moving up and down to make sure that things have to get back in order, and now here we are. But before we proceed, I want to scroll through and read some of the comments. Here they are quoting what Bwana Felix said: if you remove money from the equation, most of these legislators will lose their seats. It's true, Bwana Felix, money, and most of them shout from outside the chambers or outside the house. They are always in the corridors waiting for news reporters and giving them tokens. Then this is Chaguba Katongole. Besides NRM, sir, political parties wait from donor funds to sabotage the peace of our country. For NRM, we get our money from iPod. Friends from diaspora, salaries from our MPs and well-wishers. Then you, man, other parties don't have friends in the diaspora, or are they what you are referring to as donor funds? Most of them have sabotagers, not peace lovers. That well, I need to go to Bwana Asega. You are raising something. You were giving us the experience of how it was in Arua. Now, as you plan to do that strong comeback in 2026, what new strategies are you using? Are you also going to look for more funds, more donors to give you that financial push so that you make it in 2026, or you want to use the same template expecting different results in 2026?
You see, two wrongs cannot make a right. You cannot do wrong in order to make you wrong, in order to make you right. Two wrongs. So you must stick to a righteous things. Because as is said by Felix here, he said, we need to change things. And I must be a player in making things right. That one time, Ugandans will remember me for, that this man has always been right, has always been saying the rightest thing. There are many ways of winning. For example, as said by him earlier that not everybody who is in parliament bought voters, bribed. No. There are many different things that people did. Some went through wave, others, despite the wave they went through because of the trust they had with the people, the closeness with the people. Others, when we go to the last by-election that occurred, you see, during by-election, it was not money even.
Which by-election are you referring to?
I mean by-election of the 10th regime, the 10th parliament, let me say, the other before this last election. The by-elections that occurred, when you take experiences of by-elections that occurred, whether the NRMs that went through or the opposition members that went through, the likes of Honorable Asman, Basari Asman, it had money. Yeah? The like of, I even participated in that election. The election of Paul Mwiru, I was there personally. There was no much use of money. The last one that is packed off people power in Arua, I was part of that. There was no money, but we just gave words of hope to people. We just need to give words of hope and do things righteously. You see, money is not everything.
So what are you planning in your 2026? What new strategies are you coming with?
Well, I have very many plans, but I may not disclose it here. But money is not there. But when we look at the last election, not only in Arua per se, when you look at the northern Uganda, results, presidential results that came in, the election results and other country, part of the country. Let me base in Western, I mean northern Uganda per se. Before, northern Uganda is not to vote the regime because they were annoyed of certain things. There are things that are not answered. And I must assure up to now, the regime has not answered many things in Western Nile. People gave votes. Now, I mean, they refused to give votes, and we remained, people of northern Uganda remained isolated, actually.
But we have seen members of parliament coming from West Nile who are pro-government.
Yes, let me give you the reason. I'm coming to give you reason for that. So people didn't give the regime votes as per se. There are two things that occur. One is that people lost the morale that nobody, no any candidate, presidential candidate can take can take them to a new Uganda that they wanted, because each time somebody contests, it is the same story, the same story, the same story. So people decide, certain cluster of people say, now let us just give for the sake of giving. Otherwise, whether you give you vote an opposition candidate, you get the same result. Whether you vote him, you get the same result. You rather give him. By the way, majority did not vote. Now, secondly, is that
I'm trying to grasp you to understand your point.
What I mean is that people refuse at first to vote for NRM. They would vote opposition. Time of Semo Gerere, they voted Semo Gerere wholesomely. The four times Besige was voted, they voted Besige. Now this time, they had thought that they would have hope, but when they saw the trend of things that were moving, how things were moving, they decided to, some section of people decided to give NRM, not because they love it, just because they are tired of the same story, and it came into the same result. Other section of the people believe that election, I mean, it was use of force, let me say. There was a lot of force that were used. A lot of, besides monetization of politics in Uganda, there is militarization of politics. So it has made politics becoming politricks. Politics has become politricks because there is a lot of militarization. I don't know the case of Kenya, but in Uganda, last election, there was a lot of militarization of politics. Me, myself, I stand as testimony. During my campaigns, out of all, we were 5 candidates. Out of all 5 candidates in Arua Central Division, of Arua City. It was only me in Western Nile, only me who was arrested 4 times. The last time I was beaten by 8 soldiers, just for nothing, because I was put on my attire. I was a candidate, humiliated before my people, and taken to a known place. I found myself back. You see,
when even your voters have
taken
out by
so all that kind of force. You saw what happened during presidential election in Jinja, in Busoga here, Luka. A presidential candidate, the one I supported, the Honorable Chagulanyi, the way he was treated in Luka, the way he was treated all over. Whenever he would go for rally, he would beat your gases. People arrested. Lastly, when he was in this island, all his campaign team was arrested, and up to now, majority of his people are still incarcerated in prison. So what kind of politics is that? There was a lot of militarization besides what? So unless we remove military out of, by the way, election, it's not, that's why I said it leads to bad governance. Militarization of everything in Uganda has costed Uganda. When you go to a management of agriculture, military. Management, you go to hospitals, go to Mulago near here. Majority of those doctors who are now working, those are soldiers. But how many are they? That's the question. Can they serve the all over Uganda?
Could it be that maybe the civilians have failed to perform?
No. They have not failed to perform. They have failed to answer certain questions. You see, we first need to treat. We should not treat. Symptoms. We should not treat symptoms. We must treat the cause. Why is it that the doctors don't work? Why is it that civil servant, as he said, the civil servant is dead? Why is it that there is a lot of militarization in the politics? Why is it that there is a lot of use of money in politics? We should first treat that. If we treat that efficiently, we shall have proper democracy and good democracy in Uganda per se. But in conclusion, as I conclude, we need to start a conversation, not only in Uganda, not only in Kenya, but the whole of Africa. We should have a good conversation in democracy that we understand as African. Because this democracy we are talking about is being imposed on us by the colonial masters. And we are following them. And we think that we are doing it rightly. So we are, the leaders are doing it their own way.
Asega, in 1962, Uganda as a country, you got rid of the colonialists. And you decided to do self-governance, trying to choose members to lead you from your own. And is it right if we, up to now, we still insist?
You see,
that the kind of leaders we have,
you see,
why is the influence?
You see, it is wrong. To me, I don't believe in that. Professor Lumumba of Kenya once said even that people in Africa think that we didn't have democracy before the colonialists came to Africa. We think that what the colonialists left to Africa is the democracy they brought. It was not. We were even more organized than before. Okay, in Africa during you did history. Me, I did mathematics. I'm not an historian, but at least I followed.
But you're a teacher.
Yes, I'm a teacher. When you read those previous books, Africa actually were more organized than even the so-called colonial masters. They had the military section, they had the administration, they had everything. Even, by the way, even education. Are you aware that Africa, we had our own language that we were speaking? It is just in Ethiopia and Egypt that the little African language is remaining. But this white have made sure that Africa is divided, partitioned, and their language disappears, is not recognized anywhere. Look at Arabs. Arabs have remained with their language. Whereas Italians have remained with theirs, and Indians have remained with theirs, Chinese have remained with theirs. But where is that of Africa that could bring us together? So these Europeans whom we think that brought for us democracy actually destroy our democracy in Africa.
Thank you so much. I want to cross to Bwana Felix. Sorry, Mr. Gakuru, I'll be coming back to you. You were raising something, but before we got that technical hiccup. Mr. Felix, when we talk about democracy, we define it differently, depending maybe on where someone is seated, depending on the kind of lenses you put on your eyes. One would tell you Uganda is a democratic country. I know you're not a politician, though we are trying to drag you into the political conversations, because the nature of the work you do, by default, you cannot run away from the political discussions. As you move this country, region to region, trying to engage, you talk to the local people, getting their views on. If we get back to the conversation of democracy and looking at the kind of findings you get, does it define in any way that Uganda democratically is on the right path? And if not, what do you think needs to be done?
Wow, I think the truth is that democracy is always a journey, and I think people have to appreciate that we cannot be like the West are, who seem to have made so many steps ahead of us. And it also took very many years for them to be where they are. So I think that's the starting point, to appreciate that democracy is a journey, and we all as countries, we take baby steps towards that journey. And that's one thing that is quite critical. But also, over time, I'm starting to appreciate the fact that we need to define how we want to govern ourselves as Africans. And I think I partly borrow what he has just said. I think it makes a lot of sense. We have, within our context and where we are and where we want to be, we need to define our own democracy. The template the Europeans gave us, the Americans, whatever you call them,
it's not working.
It has proved not to work. Even those who have tried it have failed to implement it. And the truth is there are very many flaws if you put it within context. For example, and I keep having this discussion, let me actually bring it home. How do you expect someone who between him or between her and the vote, and the vote, he doesn't have a meal? I'm just painting a picture of what you call democracy. Between him and the vote, he doesn't have a meal.
Even transportation towards.
But you telling him to decide, to make a very important decision of who is going to lead him or her in the next 5 years. What do you expect that person in that state will make as a decision? We are too poor to practice democracy as is. So because of that, it can't work. That template, it is working in Europe because people have moved past a certain stage in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That is why, if you're very observant, even when you look at the voting patterns among elites, if they choose to vote, they will vote issues.
Yeah, sure.
Because they are past being deceived. And it's not just being deceived, but there is what we call an immediate need. It's called the predisposition to vulnerability. So when you look at that alone, I'm just picking one element that defines democracy. Because elections is one pillar that defines democracy. When you look at just the pillar of election and all its flaws, you realize that we are not yet there to practice democracy as is. So it's a journey, that is one thing for sure, but we need to define our own democracy depending on where we are. I have a problem for a poor person to choose to be part of
making a decision.
To be part of people who make decisions of leaders. I have a problem with that, and I'm not sorry about it. Because we've seen what poor people make as decisions. Just a circuit of Waraji, someone is busy voting the way he's voting, then he'll vote in a thief. Then he'll vote in a criminal. Then he'll vote in someone without morals.
Because he votes when he's not sober.
Because he's not sober. So, and secondly, I think also, what kind of parliament should we be having? I think it's important that we have two kinds of parliaments. There should be some people of a certain caliber in a higher chamber of parliament, and these others in a lower chamber of parliament. I mean, we need to define what really works for us to talk about democracy. And it's the same argument Pierre Lumumba has. The script the Europeans gave us is not working.
Well, thank you so much. I like that. We are too poor to practice democracy. Much as we always want to sing, and those in power across Africa, they will always tell you we are practicing democracy. But in the real sense, it's from wherever you're seated.
Actually,
that's when you can tell whether there is democracy or there is no democracy.
Actually, when you look at Arabs have their own democracy, yep, and it is respected. But the Americans are saying that is a dictatorship, it's not democracy, because they are not following theirs. When you look at China, they are doing theirs, their own democracy. You see now, unless we understand our own democracy, we understand what we want, we are still in this problem.
I want to go to Bwana Gakuru in Kenya. Democracy is a journey. And according to the conversation here in the studios, it's like Kenya, you're at least 2 steps ahead of us in the journey to democracy. And I believe for you who are in Kenya, you also believe, you think like for you, you've actually been talking about the small parties in Kenya. You didn't tell us where the New Democrats Party fall, whether it's among those small parties that always receive the rejected big fish from those big parties. Well, now, in the context of Kenya and how you look at your own democracy there, do you think you also need to elevate the game a little bit to where we want our democracy to be? Do you buy the idea when Felix says that as Africans we need to define, we need to sit down and start a new conversation and, and define the kind of democracy we need in Africa and how we want it to be practiced?
Actually, let me start more political parties. We, as a New Democrat, we are number 5 out of the best political party in Kenya, because depending other political parties, we are compliant everything, and we do our things the right way supposed to be done. That's why we are 16 years old. You find that most of the political parties in Kenya, they are being formed because the owners, they want to tell that they can get money from other big political parties, or they can go for the merger or any coalition so that they can do that in a coming government. But for us, we refused that. Any coalition, either coalition or after the government, because the reason why most of the coalition is just for self-interest. It's not for the democracy. And you find that most of our politicians, they like to do coalition because of what they have been rooting, so that they can safeguard what they have been stolen from the government. Nothing else. There is nothing like we are going for coalition so that we can form the government. We can do 1, 2, 3 to Wanjiku, and then bring good democracy in Kenya or whatever. Let me say that democracy in Kenya, we may say that I may say that we have a mission trying to implement the constitution with some few democracy, but we are not yet there, because number one, we have a lot of issues dealing with the constitution. We have court issues, wrangles, judgment, day and night. Things are not moving that we have democracy, and those are the some of things my friend was saying. Many of people, they bring this kind of, they are trying to bring kind of issues of democracy and telling us we are still moving a step for the democracy, yet that they are giving us money so that we can be their beggars. That is not democracy we are talking about. I think since the time we left our culture and then we adapt European culture, that's when our democracy move away from Africa. We need to go back and we need to ask ourselves, where are we as Africans? Which kind of democracy we want? because this kind of beyond democracy, whereby they come, I may say like now, whereby COVID tests, COVID medicine, it's coming all the way. Yet that Kenya, we are not able to manufacture our own medicine. Yet that Africa not able to manufacture our own vaccine. Yet that we have democracy. No, that is not the democracy. So we need to say, if I'm moving from UK, from Kenya to, I don't need to be vaccinated because we are in a region. That's what we call the democracy. But I cannot move from Uganda to here and then I get the vaccine. I get the letter to traveling or for vaccination. Then we call that is democracy. We need to go back and we need to ask ourselves, can we run away from these European Union people? Let us go back to our demarcation and we say this is what we are supposed to do. This is not what we are supposed to do. You find that many things we have run away from doing all those things. That's why you see we are missing a lot of so many things. So for me, I would say Kenya, we are not yet because still having rancors, even if we have a new constitution, people out there, they may think, like Uganda, they may think that we are good, but we are not yet good. People are disappearing every day, every day. You have seen our politicians all the time, they are fighting because what they have roots, they want to go back and to bring a sanity in the country, yet that there is no sanity in the country. It's one region which is near in your Uganda, we call Laikipia. They are still fighting each and every day. Fighting. They are not fighting because just or rationing. They are fighting because we have a certain people who want to root, who want to grab there. So those are the issues. Yet that we just was and saying that we are in democracy, now we need our rank, then we starting fighting you out, and then you say this is democracy. That is not the way to do it. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and I am saying asante sana ndugu. I need to, well, I want to apologize to our viewers, and especially those who would wish to make phone calls. It's unfortunate today we are unable to have the calls because we just have a few technical issues that we are trying to resolve. If we get the problem sorted, or in the next in the next 15 minutes of the show, then we'll be able to have them. But in case we fail, please accept our apologies. Meanwhile, you can go to our Facebook page and leave your comments there. We'll be able to read it out and just keep the conversation flowing. Bwana Asega Habibu Jogo, the man from Arua. If you listen to Mr. Gakuru speaking, you would think the leadership in Kenya stole the political script from Kenya. If someone, from Uganda, if someone is telling you, there's kidnaps, they're happening, just like it's always happening here. People are disappearing without, it's the same story. So there must be, it's either shared script somewhere or, I don't know, there must be one big influencer in the region. Well, that will be for another time. Bwana Asega, if you look at the way we have described the democracy in Uganda, Kenya, and the examples we've had, like the off topics, the off discussions, off air discussions, you see that there is a problem in Africa as a continent. And it calls for that collective, involvement of all stakeholders. Those people who have goodwill for Africa, people who want to see Africa change, people who want to see Africa becoming much, much, much better than it is today. Now, you are a candidate, you were a candidate, and according to the way you're speaking, it's like you've never given up. You're still in high gear preparations for 2026. Under the current setup of our political system, do you think candidates who have no money, candidates who really have goodwill for this country, people who have goodwill for their, you know, for their constituencies. Do you think they can have an opportunity to represent the electorates? People like you, I know you're going to tell me you can, but let's look at, don't actually give me an example of yourself. Let's look at a clear picture of this whole thing. Because there are those people, now people who have the capacity, people who have the brilliant ideas to represent us, they have chosen to shy away from politics. They have chosen to take a back seat, like we can't go into that. Because when they look at, they hear the stories you're sharing, even when you have 2,000, you'll find someone who wants 10,000 from you, you know? So do you think under this political setup we have in this country, shall this country have the opportunity to have sober leaders to go and represent the electorate?
Thank you very much. You know, what we are having now in Uganda is not democracy. What we are having in Uganda is what we call democracy.
What is that?
Democracy. It's not democracy. Because there's a lot, right from electing leaders up to management of those leaders and the leaders themselves making a decision on behalf of those who elected them, and the people themselves, the way he brought it, the poor people, poor man given alcohol so that he makes a decision. No, it's totally wrong. In Uganda today, election will not take us anywhere. Election under this arrangement, under the leadership of this regime, will not take us anywhere, because they are ready to retain, they are ready to, by all means, to die and remain in the leadership of this nation, because they are already threatened. They are already threatened that the nation knows now what is wrong and what is bad. They are threatened of that. What's wrong and what's right. They are already threatened about that. They are already threatened about their credibility itself. Okay? You see what is happening in Uganda. Eh? Even in our involvement in Congo. If at all we had real good governance system and real democracy in the country, could we just first go to Congo without even following the right channel that is prescribed by the law, by our constitution? So we are not ready. The only thing that will save Uganda is first of all to do away with these people, to kick them out. That's why we are saying we are giving them this red card. We are giving them this red card. There is a crisis. The crisis we are having is not only a crisis in election. It's not a crisis. When you look at medicine, now we are left with only a few weeks for our children to go back to school. But the parents are poor. You have just released the parents from prison of lockdown. The business itself is down. Schools themselves, you have told this private school to register, and they are not registering freely. Teachers are not there. Most teachers have gone to border riding. Others have gone down for politics. Others, like me, I'm now in the politics. I don't even see in the near future going back to job. You see what is going to happen in the education sector. We are starting in January. What is going to happen? Our children, you are now going to have children who have been preparing chapati, earning their money. Somebody who has been working in the garage. Some children who have been riding border. They have been earning. Yet before lockdown, they were not earning. Now, these children are going to be stubborn and be very unruly in school. You see, we are in total dilemma. In education is concerned, now you are seeing doctors and they are undergoing strike.
Intern doctors, not all doctors.
You see, no matter, but doctors. You see, and many expect many to come, many of such kind of things to come. So we need a total rehabilitation of this country. We need to bring this country to order.
And how do we do that?
We need to bring this country to order, using Article 3 of this Constitution of Republic of Uganda.
How do we do that?
Civil disobedience. use of civil disobedience, then we bring these people to order. They must do what the population is supposed to receive.
Thank you so much. I mean, the way Mr. Gakuru is looking at you, like the way you're emphasizing that civil disobedience. Well, Bwana Felix.
Yes.
The kind of work you do, is there any contribution you can do to putting this country in the right place where it should be?
I think all of us have a role to play. We all have something to do to put this country back to order, as he rightly puts it. But there's the point I want to first make before I answer that one affirmatively, is that around democracy, especially, there's no script I've come across where majority have built a nation. It has always been the minority building a nation. Then after some time, progressively, at a certain level of growth, people start to have powers to make contributions to nation building. That's why women in US, it took women some good years before they could have civic rights and political rights. So, and I think to make my point on that one is that I think it was too premature for us to be handed the script of democracy. And no wonder the people who first ran with it, struggled with it, and eventually they did end up getting back into autocratic kind of rule, because that is what worked for us then. But even at the point where we were, that was what was necessary. But back to you, we all can make a contribution, individually, collectively, either as civil society, or as a citizen, or as a voter. But I think what Uganda needs, we need a very honest conversation, and some people have called it a dialogue, because there are very many contestations, very many things that we are not disagreeing on. We have very many disagreements. We disagree on many things. As a country, we are not a nation. We are different. We are a collection of tribes, of people being forged into a nation with a lot of issues. We need to have a national dialogue and say, okay, on things A, B, C, D, let's agree to move collectively in this direction. A genuine conversation, by the way. But unless we have that conversation, we will continue having all these sorts of pulling and tagging. The things we can do collectively, individually, is referring to civil obedience. Some of us have to keep talking until something sinks in. Some of us have to keep, you as a journalist, you have this conversation, you have these platforms where you talk about these things continuously. Whatever small thing you can do, as long as it's contributing to addressing the fundamental challenges we are facing as a country, we all have a role to play.
Thank you so much. Mr. Gakuru, I am crossing over to you. As the New Democrats of Kenya, I want to believe that there is a direction you want to steer your country in the conversation of democracy. Being within the East African coalition, the East African, how is it called? The East African Federation. East African Federation. Yes, we would actually enjoy part of those good programs that you have for Kenya. One time I was watching news some time back, there is a Kenyan legislator who was saying that if we want to have this federation move forward, we must be honest to one another. Maybe you'll help me. I'm forgetting his name. We must be honest to one another. We cannot lie to ourselves and our people in East Africa that we are into this integration when some countries they are not respecting human rights in their countries. Actually, he was referring to Uganda. Now, as the National Organizing Secretary for the New Democrats, a 16-year-old party in Kenya, what plans do you have to ensure that Kenya moves to the democracy that you want? And you could even share a leaf, you could share a template, you could share the script with us in Uganda.
Let me say that we as a New Democrats, we are still trying to push democracy because number one, and that's why we refuse to vote for any political coalition, because we believe even if it's 100 years, the New Democrat will have a president in Kenya who will be the president elected by the ticket of the New Democrats, and we remain independent political. The problem we are facing, and that's why we are ranking the democracy, it's because that you find that we have voters who don't contribute anything in the political parties. Like now, previous election, it was a new political party which was called, I may mention, which was called the Jubilee. And now the Jubilee is over. Now there is another new political party, and now there is all action to that political party elected with that platform. So, and that's democracy. Because you see in ANC in South Africa, it is there for many years. That's why you see in US it's for many years. The reason why, because people value the leadership in that political party and their leadership. But here in some of country in East Africa, they don't contribute anything, and they also don't follow the manifesto for that political party. They always follow a certain individual. That's when they say, I belong to this political party. And if people, they can now starting realizing that we need to associate ourselves with a certain political party, not a certain person, so that's when we can have democracy, and that's when we can change this country. And I'm 100%. The democracy we are talking today, the only generation can change Africa. It's not our generation. It's other generation to come, for maybe generation for our children. Because as we are spoiled, we have stolen many government institutions, many government land, money, and etc. We always go back to the parliament to prevent what we have stolen from government and public utilities. And it is very hard for my generation. We say that we'll change this country to have a democracy. Another generation will come, and maybe that those are generation will be talking about the democracy, because they will say, as we don't want to know this institution was belong to who, this house was belong to who, but it was stolen when I was here, and my mother was telling me this was a public utilities. So children will demolish that, will take that back to the community, will have democracy. But our generation, we are not democracy. But we are trying to advocate our children. This is the right way. This is how you can, and this is how you can reach the democracy. I told you before, for me, I rose because not that I didn't have money, but because there was a euphoria whereby people directing a certain candidate was belong to a certain region to them. So it was a tribal thing, but they didn't value life.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gakuru. As far as we've been following the politics of Kenya, it's actually more of the tribal groupings, the coalitions, than the traditional political parties. Well, anyway, I need to look through the comments here. Okello Kenneth, as long as Africans fail to transcend tribal groupings as basis for doing politics, there will never be democracy as we know it. Nache Rita says, what a pity that the African political mother is the same, who gave birth to greedy and selfish political animals who behave like, she used Museveni's word, which eat their own in Museveni's word. Okay, then, these are very serious comments. I think I can. Oh, Mr. Gakuru, are you there? I just want to have your closing word from that side. Then we just.
I'm very grateful and also my brother and Felix. I want to come for next year to campaign for me, and then they visit our new Democrat office. They are doing and how we are trying to implement our party constitution and also the Kenya constitution and also the democracy. But I want to tell you, in Uganda, very soon you will have democracy if your agenda, if you push your agenda away. Not to go to the Mustuni, but if you push your agenda the right way, and I'm sure very soon you will have a new president who will be able to take Uganda where it's supposed to be.
Have you on the show? Yes, Bwana Asega, I want your last word, and then we close the show.
I want to thank Bwana Gakuru. Thank you
Gakuru.
very much.
Gakuru.
Thank you very much, Bwana Gakuru, for that words of encouragement. Nashukuru sana Bwana Gakuru, na sisi watu wa Arua tunajua lugha ya Kiswahili, though Swahili yetu sio sanifu sana kama ya kwenyu. Nashukuru sana namna umetualika tukuje tukusaidie tukutafutie kura. Tuko tayari, niko tayari kama mimi, niko tayari kuja kabisa. Mimi niko fighter kabisa. Lakini hatuwezi kwenda msituni. Sisi tunasukuma agenda yetu inaenda kuwa agenda yetu sio ya kuenda msituni. We are fighting from within. Hatuende fasi nyingine. Japokuwa wanatufukuza, wanatupiga, wanatufunga, wanatufanya nini, tunapigana mjini hapa. Ajili msituni hakuna siku hizi. Nashukuru sana wakuu wenyewe wameni alika kwa hii show. Nashukuru sana, tumekuwa na conversation ya East Africa actually. Me learn sana kuhusu politics ya Kenya. Nashukuru sana ndugu wangu.
Unaweza hata kuzungumza kwa ile lugha ya huko kwenyu.
Kweli.
Just 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you also. Our photo, our February pini, our femini Mandrezo, Aniralu Barakivi ni digital diachi, mivina Mandrende. Ma diachi so part ya lubarase, mavini Angelo Bararende. Askuyo amazo pigana dia lubara.
Thank you so much. Yes, Bwana Felix, I want to have your last word.
Thank you, Bwana Gakuru, and thank you, my colleague here, for enriching this discussion, and thank you for this space, for providing the space for such a very timely and important conversation. I think we need to continuously talk about these things until something happens. The hope is not lost, and we are the people to make that change. Each one of us has a responsibility, and we can do something in our small ways. There is power in numbers. It's dangerous not to start. It's more fruitful to take the first step. And we shall get there as a country.
Thank you so much, Bwana Felix, Bwana Asega, and Bwana Gakuru, and the team that has worked with me in the studios, in the control room. I thank all of you. And then our dear viewers, we thank you for really making it to always tuning in to the hotline and all other programs as provided by the Dig Talk. We really thank you, and I want to thank you, my dear guests, for making time to join us, and we really thank you for that elaborative discussion that you've shared with us and the entire public. My name is Abdalla Tiff, and I wish you a good evening, and we'll meet again next Monday.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.